right. So, yep, looks like we're recording. All right. Hey, everybody. It's your main man, Jaleel Mans, and welcome to the Marketing Velocity Podcast, where we give you the speed and direction you need to market your business effectively. Today, I've got Brittany Gregory, who is the Jedi, the Obi-Wan of copy and content, and she's going to help us make better connections with people through our copywriting, our content. So welcome to the show, Brittany. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Jaleel. So my clients call me the jargon expert because I help simplify their language for a global audience. Basically, I make it to where everybody can understand what they're talking about in a consistent manner by giving them, keywords to use, hashtags, but also sometimes writing their content for them so that it's all consistent and sounds the same across all their different mediums that they might be using in their business.
So what are some of the different mediums that you see? I mean, let's dive into it.
So I work with web page copy, social media posts, emails. I've done blogging, articles, case studies. Ads are a big one. I get lots of people requesting ads for Facebook from me. And then let's see. And then recently I started doing books actually. So I've started helping people develop their business books, and then I'm in talks with one person who wants me to write theirs for them. So that'll be pretty fun.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I hear that a lot, and I hear, content is king. You've got to do content. You've got to, you've got to have content for Google, for SEO, and
Yes.
it's a lot, right? It's the messaging it gets a little bit muddy when, our audience here is trying to figure out, okay, content is great, right? But where do I start, And so where do you think, Brittany, as an expert, that people should start when it comes to content?
I think before you go and just start posting things to the wall, and this is something I really wish I had done when I got started. So even me as a copywriter, I'd been writing for 4 years before I actually launched my business. But it's something, and I wrote about this actually today on my Facebook page. I wish I had sat down and I had made um, a, a branding document, not for like colors and everything like you see with designers and whatnot, but for my message. So a branded messaging document. I need to come up with a cool phrase for it, but um, anyway, I think I see so many people coming into the space and they're like, I'm just going to talk about what I do, and I'm going to do like the behind the scenes stuff. I'm going to ask these random engagement questions. And they're basically using old tactics that used to work and they used to do very, very well. But now it's people want stories. They want to know you, but at the same time, we have to be very careful when we're doing that to make sure it all sounds the same, because then they're not going to recognize you as if you're just doing it from like a different mindset all the time. They're going to feel those moments when you're desperate in your copy, and you don't really want that. You want it to be a constant positive message that um, that it has packed with value and is teaching them something constantly, so that they recognize you as the expert and want to come to you for whatever it is you're selling.
Heck
So the
yeah, that's
biggest thing is,
exactly what I want.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's what we all want. So we have to have that branded messaging document that we can look back to and make sure, okay, are we using the same words, but are we also mixing them up the right way so it doesn't get dull and boring? And are we capturing the SEO? But is it also, doesn't sound like a robot? So there's so many different nuances that go into it.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I tried my hand at different copy, and I know it's probably pretty challenging for you these days because I see all these ads for, AI copywriting, and you just fill in the blanks and, everything magically comes together. But I have this feeling that, maybe it provides some sort of foundation or framework, but
Mhm.
to me, it's kind of suspect, right? Because I'm
Yeah.
like, these people that I know are working on copywriting, like you've been working on copywriting for a long time. Jim Edwards, if you're listening, Jim, I'd love to have you on the podcast, and he's been working on it for his whole lifetime, right? And so I'm
Right.
thinking, can it really be that easy to kind of circumvent all of those years of experience and certification and education? And
Mhm.
my brain just automatically says like, maybe that's too good to be true. What are your thoughts?
So I've seen what the AIs create, and it's bad. It's bad. It's like it's what you would expect a computer to do, right? Analyzes your it analyzes like your previous content, right? Like the super high techy ones do. It analyzes your previous content, and then it takes these keywords you've put in for it to say, and then it comes up with this mess that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. I mean, like there's some sense to it, but it's boring. There's no emotion behind it. It's what you would expect from a robot. Like there's no emotion. There's no human connection in there because they haven't made a robot that can create a person yet.
Very true. Yeah. And so, we often use in our marketing, right? And anybody who's watched TV commercials or heard radio ads, right? We generally, those things are eliciting emotional responses from us. And then closer towards the closing or reaching out to make a call or something, it's justified by logic, right? So you
Mhm.
have something, for example, Walmart, right? So Walmart will say, save money, live better, right? And so if you save money, yeah, you have opportunities to live better, to do more of the things that you want to be able to do if you aren't paying regular retail prices. So I get that, right? Yeah,
Right.
I want to save money so that I can, do more fun stuff with my family and my friends. So yeah, I get that. But like you said, a robot doesn't know how to tap into that, right?
Exactly.
All they could do is algorithms and patterns and stuff like that. What a human would do when they program a robot.
Mhm.
So, I mean, what do you think the next step would be, right, for somebody? I mean, you mentioned branding and maybe taking a look really at who you are, and there are things to consider, right, like
Yes.
your brand voice and tone and things like that.
Mhm.
So, for our audience here, I mean, what's what's the next step here?
So I think the next step is, to sit down to really create um, that brand message. And there's lots of coaches out there who can do that if you're really just not sure what your brand message is. One of the things I do with my clients is I have a 90-minute session where we spend like 60 minutes to an hour and a half together. And, I talk to them about it. We get really clear on who it is they are, what they sell, what they're wanting to offer. And then I go and I create that message. I create that form for them, the document with, here's like 24 headlines that are going to capture attention. And here's the subtopics for those headlines so that they have an outline of what it is they're going to be talking about. And people they take in, they use it for videos, blogs, social media posts, all kinds of things. Um, and then I give them their SEO list and their hashtags so that they can go off and they can hit the computers too. But if you're going to go do it yourself, the really big important thing to think about and to look at is, who is your audience? Like, what are you selling to them? What is the transformation you're bringing to them at the end of everything you do with them? You want to get really clear on what that transformation is because it used to be we would push the problem. That was the big seller, back like just a year or two ago. Like but
Yeah,
that's
the whole
dying. People
problem,
don't want that.
agitate, and solve type formula.
Yeah, like the whole bro marketing, as they call it. It doesn't work very well anymore. It still works, but it's not going to do as well because you're pushing the pain point and people are like, I don't want to be in pain anymore. I already know what my problem is. Stop pushing the button. I know it. Tell me how to fix it. That's what people want. So when you focus on what the transformation is and what the solution to the problem is in your copy, and you get really, really clear on that, because so many people I run into, they're like, well, I help people lose weight, or I help people write their content, or I help people with their systems, because I work with people in all sorts of fields, from real estate all the way to um, I work with someone she does art therapy. So worlds apart, right? Um, but all of them, they struggled with, what is the true transformation? What problem am I truly solving? And what is the end result? So it's more than just a brand new house for the realtor. They're building a relationship with somebody that they can trust over time, in their community. With the art therapist, she is creating transformations in her people's lives where they can actually have real relationships with, their partner or their friends, and they feel bonded, and they feel more in tune with their body, and they're no longer allowing themselves to make friends with people that aren't good for them. So, and they're getting more in touch with their emotions and expressing those emotions through art. So there's so many different things that go into all of these different businesses, depending on what it is you're selling. But when you get really into that transformation, and you can really hone it down to what it looks like for your clients, that's where the money is going to be.
I agree with you 1,001%, right? Because I tried that, and back in the day, I used to do the features and benefits, and then the problem, agitate, and solve. And,
Mhm.
those things, people get used to those, right? And then they get tired of it.
Yeah.
But the transformation really doesn't get old, right? The
Mhm.
transformation is a constant. It's the foundation. And
Mhm.
so, I've from a sales capacity, right? Because I do some sales coaching and things like that as well, right? I found that transformation, selling that transformation, is what was getting me the sale, right?
Mhm.
And I had a lady on the phone, and she's like, well, I understand the importance of doing funnels and this, that, and the other. I don't want to write a bunch of copy. I don't have time, and I don't
Mhm.
want to understand all of the intricate details of a funnel. I just kind of want somebody to do it, but hold my hand, but not go too deep, right?
Yes.
And when I heard that, I was writing it all down. I was like, oh yeah, this is gold, right? And
Mhm.
so I was able to make 3 sales that week just
Mhm.
based on what she told me, because she was just interested in the transformation. So when I said, hey, I've got this awesome process of, we're going to figure out what all of this looks like. We're not going to get into different software and automation and, like make your eyes roll into the back of your head and you just fall over
Mhm.
on a Zoom call, right? Instead, I'm just going to ask you pertinent questions to getting that stuff set up. And she's like, oh, I'm not going to have to write, am I? I don't want to write. I don't want to write. And I said, no, I've got you. It's easy. Check this out. I said, I'm going to ask you a series of, 48 questions. And then when I answer those things, I'm going to come up with some copy for you. Right. And then you can review it in Google Docs. So you don't have to write anything. I just need you to review it. And then she was so excited. She's like, yeah, that's exactly what I want. Like, this is going to get done. It's going to be done in a set number of hours. And I don't really have to learn to become a copywriter to do it.
Yeah.
And so she was like, I'm in, just
Mhm.
don't make me write. And
Yes.
so, that transformation is where the gold is. So you really helped get to that. And you talked about, brand voice and tone and,
Mhm.
um, just really figuring out how you're going to fix that problem. Like, we're not beating on a problem anymore, but we're fixing it. And so from
Mhm.
there, where do we go, Brittany?
So from there, once we really have what our transformation is, and we have our message and we're really clear on that, then it's really just about writing the copy and understanding, the format, if you're going to write it yourself. And that's just if you're going to write it yourself. You don't actually have to write anything yourself. There are copywriters out there who you could pay pennies. Honestly, you really shouldn't do that, though. I don't recommend it. But there are copywriters. It's not expensive to hire a copywriter. It can get expensive, especially if you want one who's really good. but it's well worth the investment to pay the money for the copywriter, honestly, because that's our lane. You have your lane, we have our lane. Our lane is that we love to write. We know how language works, and we understand it to an even deeper level as far as it's more than just about the sale. It's also the way language itself connects with people. And when you hire a copywriter, that's something we can't teach. It's something that's just innate. You either know it or you don't. You can develop it over time by reading a lot of copy and by studying copy, but it is really truly one of those things that you're kind of born with, to understand the way language moves and flows, which is why I've spent an entire lifetime studying language and the way it works and flows. So,
Yeah, it's really important to stay in your lane. And I see a lot of people trying to bootstrap it, and I can do it on my own. And I've watched YouTube videos, so I'm good. And,
mhm,
the copy is so important because, in my experience, people were like, I want this funnel to look really good, or I want the graphics on my ad to look good, I want the images on my blog to look good. And but all of that stuff is for naught, right? If we
yeah,
don't just like, if the copy isn't resonating with people,
yeah.
right?
The
You can
pictures grab
keyword
the
it.
attention, the words keep it.
There you
And
go.
mhm,
That's an excellent way to say it. And
yeah,
and we want people to read all the way through, and we want them to take the next logical step with their business.
yes.
And so it took me a while to kind of learn that. And I as a test, right, I started sending some of the ad copy I wrote to people, and they're like, "What is this?
Mhm,
What are you trying to tell me? Like, I
mhm,
don't get it. It's not connecting." And so, that's where I figured, hey, I'm not going to start wasting any more money on ads and stuff
mhm.
unless I feel it. And I think for me, one of the ways that I gauge it is I feel it, right? Because I talked
Yes.
earlier about eliciting, that emotional connection. And so if I
Mhm,
read through it and I'm falling asleep, or, I get
mhm,
halfway through and I'm like, this isn't for me. I don't know what this is. Right.
mhm.
I know that it's not on track. But if I
Yeah.
feel it, I showed that to one of my clients who were building her funnel out. She said, I don't know why this isn't working. And I read through it and I was like, who are you talking to? You know,
Mhm.
like, who are you talking to?
Yeah.
And so, I gave her a couple examples. I'm nowhere near as good as you, but I was like, let's change these headlines. Let's change this action here. And then she read
Mhm.
it and she was like, oh, I get it. Right.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, because like before you weren't talking to anybody, right? It wasn't
Mhm.
making any sense. I said, but
True.
when they can feel it,
Mhm.
that's where they're like, oh yeah, this is me. Yeah, I feel
Yes.
exactly that way. And from there you just kind of, it just
Mhm.
progressively, if it's written right, if it's written by Brittany, right, then it will it will make that connection. It'll drive them to the next action without you having to pull them there. Like they're gonna feel
Yes.
attracted like a moth to a flame, and
Mhm.
mosquitoes to me in Houston. So,
Right. I really love doing the travel ads that I do, because I've never been outside of Texas. I'm here in Texas too. Um, and so I've never really been outside of Texas. I mean, I've been to New York and Maryland and a few other states, but I've never been to another country. As much as I would love to go, I have a whole list. But I've never been to another country, but I've studied sociology and culture, and I've studied 10 different foreign languages. So when I get these travel ads from one of my clients, who's a Facebook ads manager, and she does a lot of works with a lot of people who are in the travel industry. So I get these ads, and so I get to go to those places in my research. And so I put myself there, and I like look up what does it smell like there? What does it taste like there? What kinds of sounds am I going to hear in this place? So I put myself there to write the content so that I can feel like I'm there and I can put that in the copy, because I've never been there. So you'd think, how are you supposed to put these experiences into something you've never been? You have to go there. And the great thing about the internet is we can go anywhere in the world without leaving our desk. So,
that's right. I've had the pleasure of traveling halfway around the planet thanks to the Army, the Navy, and so
Mhm.
where you don't have those experiences, I have, but that doesn't devalue the power of the human brain and the imagination, right? I mean, it's why I read books, right? I love books because although a movie is made to like grab my attention, the soundtracks, the sound effects, the high resolution cameras and panning and tilting and
Mhm.
zooming in, I get all of that. But when you're reading a book, right,
Mhm.
now the movie's playing in your mind, right? And your
Yes.
mind can take it to all kinds of places.
Mhm.
And that's where the value really comes in for me, is because I see these things in my mind
Mhm.
differently than I would in a movie. And
Yeah.
it's a movie that I'm making in my own mind. So I kind of prefer that over, some of the best directors out there.
Right.
Um, and so I understand that. And when you can get into the mind of your prospect, whether it's a
Mhm.
Facebook ad or one of your customers that's reading a blog post, right? It's really important to paint that
Mhm.
picture and start that movie in their mind so that they're getting it and they're connecting. It's kind
Mhm.
of like when I went to Italy, and I remember the smell of the open air seafood markets, and
Mhm.
the smell of pasta cooking in the restaurant, and the taste of the delicious beer I had with my seafood and spaghetti. It's
Nice.
those things will never go away in my mind. And
Mhm.
so if I was, a friend of mine actually has an Italian travel blog, addicted
Mhm.
to Italy. Suzanne, she is amazing. She too is a writer. Maybe we make a connection there. But
Right.
it's that it's just lovely, right? Because she's been there. She goes there. She gives tours every year, but
Mhm.
she also, like, she can clearly paint that picture.
Yes.
And it's like I can smell the olive oil, and I can
Mhm.
remember the fresh baked bread that I dipped into the olive oil, and the guy
Yes.
complaining. Like, it's those things that are trigger things. Because remember, like, you remember your favorite meal, and you
Mhm.
remember what you ate at your friend's wedding, and things like
Mhm.
that. So I'll get off of that tangent because I'm a foodie at heart, and it's starting to show. That's not what we're talking about today, people.
Right. Oh, total foodie here too. And my husband's a chef, so
Ooh, lucky you.
we can get really into food.
I bet. So yeah, we're painting this picture and we're making that connection. We're selling the transformation softly. We're not, buy my stuff, do it now or you'll die.
You're
Um,
building that relationship.
yeah, we're cultivating that relationship, and we're developing that trust.
Mhm.
Um, and so all of that is great. Um, so how does we have a picture of how all of this works, right? But for someone who's listening to this podcast or watching this, right? What do they do next, right? Because our goal here on this podcast is to take people fast, give that
Mhm.
speed and direction to action so that they can start seeing the results that they've always wanted. So with everything in mind that you've spoken about today, I mean, what's the next logical step?
I would say if you want somebody to help you through this, hop on a clarity call with me. We'll start getting a little clearer on your message. We won't do the whole thing because that's my 90 minutes, but we'll clarify, make sure you're, on the right track. And I'll also give you a list of what pieces of copy you need to be creating right now in order to get yourself off the ground and start running with what you have.
Well, that's an awesome first step, right? Because a lot of people struggle with the fact of, we hear all of this stuff and we see it in our Facebook page. You should be blogging. Okay,
Right.
I'll blog. No, you should be running ads. Okay, I'll run ads. Right. And even for me, I love video.
Mhm.
And I realize that, my video scripts are important, right? I can easily get in front of the camera and yak all day long, right? And I'm passionate about what I do and how I help people with their businesses. But
Mhm.
that still needs to be structured, right? The
Yes.
My YouTube video title has to make sense and connect. My description has to make sense and connect. And then the actual video itself, right, has to make sense and it has to connect. And so I love that you start with a clarity call, right? And that, you know, your 90-minute session after that, you really take a deeper dive into, okay, now that we know what you should be doing, you know, here's the, here's how we're going to get it done, right? Here's that.
Yeah,
So,
the 90-minute is here's actually how to do it. Here are 24 headlines to take off with and outlines to talk about. Here is a full SEO list. So if you're going the blogging direction or doing videos, you have the words and the keywords that you need in those descriptions. The hashtags if you're on Instagram, because you know every platform has its own little thing. So I really wanted to set it up to where this 90-minute call could cover whatever direction you're taking in your marketing, because they all include content or copy, words. You need words to create anything, whether you're doing video, blogs, Instagram. It doesn't matter what platform you're using, TikTok, they all need words.
yeah, even I'm having a great time on Clubhouse now, but I'm starting to realize too that, you know, I need help with the words there too, even though it's an audio format, you know, just like this podcast. It does matter, you know, and my presentations are always structured. I make sure of that. But there are other things that matter, like, you know, your value proposition, who you help and how you help. Those things need to be organized and structured so that people hear it and they're like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I need. Or no, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm not going to waste their time or mine.
Right.
And so those are great. So how do we get in touch with you, Brittany? Like, where's the best place to reach you? Your website, email, phone?
You can reach me on my website, Leanne Minton Virtual Assistants. Leanne's my middle name, and my pen name that I often use to write with is Leanne Minton. So if you search that, you'll probably find old fan fiction and other things. You'll see my entire history of writing online. But Leanne Minton Virtual Assistants.com is my website. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, and then I have a group focused on creative content where people can come connect with me. I also I have a Clubhouse. I haven't done anything on it yet, but my friend, you and I share a friend, Ray. She's going to help me get started on there. So at Brittany Gregory on Clubhouse. You can find me there.
Yeah, I'm at Jaleel Mans on Clubhouse,
I'm
and
everywhere.
so I know
Look up
I'm
Leanne
back.
Minton or Brittany Gregory, and you're pretty much bound to find me. Leanne Minton, you'll find me the most,
Yeah,
just because that's the pen name.
yeah. Ray pushed me too. She invited me to Clubhouse, and then I sat on it, and I'm like, I'm used to doing video and live streaming, but Clubhouse has been fun because I mean, I get captive audiences, people who are working out and listening, or somebody who's driving and listening, and it's been fun. It's been a blast. So I'm sure you're going to do great once you're on there.
Thank you.
All right. So everybody, you know, this is what it's all about. You know, you have some speed and direction now towards your, you know, developing the content that's going to help you market your business effectively. And, you know, in the show notes, I'm going to share all the links and things that Brittany shared with us so that you can stay connected with her. And I look forward to seeing you, hearing you guys all on the next podcast at Marketing Velocity. Thank you so much for your time, Brittany.
Thank you.
All right. See you guys next time.
Yeah. You're mommy.
You just missed it, buddy. We were